Welcome to the very first edition of the Amplify Collective podcast. My name is Jody Quant-Stoner. I'm the CEO of Big Orange Media, and I'm delighted to be joined by Pete Kenyon, partner at Crips, and Jenny Kitchen, CEO of Yo-Yo Design. Guys, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome indeed. So let's kick off with a big one. What is Amplify?
Amplify is, Jen and I started talking a few years ago, I think two or 3 years ago now, about the need to do something collectively with businesses, and Amplify is the result of that, and an awful lot of iterations of it have come before. And essentially it is a collective of businesses, a group of businesses put together to accelerate or help to accelerate their respective sustainability journeys, and increase and improve their impact they have on their community. We felt very strongly that we were faced with some pretty existential problems, and that alone we were fairly powerless, but that together we might be much more powerful. Awesome. And we all have various knowledge and experience, and we must share it. For once in our business lives, we actually have something very, very, very urgent, but that is entirely uncompetitive.
Yeah.
And we're all used to being in business with competition and capitalism and the need to earn money very much at the forefront. But for once, the most urgent thing in front of us is entirely uncompetitive. So working together very meaningfully is the aim of Amplify. And something we're very, very determined to do together.
Jen, what about you? What's the, from your perspective, obviously you've, put a lot of time into this, how has that been something that you've been able to kind of do alongside running Yo-Yo?
Well, for me, it was a very personal journey. About 5 or 6 years ago, then I became very aware of kind of the climate crisis ahead of us, in front of us, and or happening now.
Yeah.
And it was looking at it from a sort of personal perspective, but quickly I realized the role that business has to play within it. And I took Yo-Yo through the B Corp accreditation about 4.5 years ago. And I think that sort of opened my mind to actually the possibilities of business doesn't have to be the way that we run businesses over the last kind of 50 years. Business needs to change and needs to evolve and needs to have an understanding of its role that it can play, both in terms of sort of staff, in terms of products, in terms of services, all sorts of different things. And so with the B Corp community, then I saw the power of collective work. Yeah. And as Pete said, then it's not a competition. We're all on this earth together.
Yeah.
So it's very much about how we can work together to go further.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, I mean, balancing this alongside kind of day job is of course a challenge. But when you feel passionately about something, then you find the time, you make the time, which is what Pete and I have done, with obviously the support from both Yo-Yo and Crips.
So what about from your perspective, Pete?
But both Jen and I, Jen's explained a bit about her passion, and as a CEO of the business, she's been able to drive it on that basis. But for me, I'm a partner at Crips, and our stated purpose is to be the difference for our planet, our community, our clients, and our people. And we're able to feel and be quite individual in our approach to what that means. And it's allowed me to think, well, what can I personally do for my community and my planet? And the early conversations with Jen were absolutely that. How can we have an impact on our community and improve our environmental credentials and have an impact by bringing other businesses with us? And so for me, I just feel very lucky to work at a business which considers these kind of activities to be so important. We all want to be proud of our impact, the impact we have on our community and on our planet, and Crips is a firm that thinks those things are very important alongside profit, and so I've been given the freedom to do that and unequivocal support to get involved with Amplify in the way I have.
Sure, and the time is now, right? I mean, I think that you hear a lot of people talking about sustainability and the importance of it, and I think for a lot of businesses, they don't quite know well, of course they know what that means, but how they can kind of get involved and how they can make more of an impact when it comes to that type of thing. If there's environmentally and sustainability conscious business listening to this podcast, watching this podcast, what could they do? What are the sort of things that Amplifi could do to help them?
The first thing to have a look at our website. Actually, the first thing I must say is they would be incredibly welcome to join us. That is the point of Amplifi. We want more businesses to join in the conversation and get involved with the work that we're doing. Have a look at the website. Get in touch with us. We've got email address details on the website, and we'll point you towards the most appropriate sector group. We've got 7 sector groups represented, which in our ambition is to cover the basic requirements for different sectors, and there are sectors that aren't represented as much, but we hope that the 7 we've got are well represent the businesses around us and in the region. And we'll point you to those groups. You can then get involved. We're having quarterly meetings with the groups. You'll be very welcome to come and join those groups and get involved in a program of activities that we kind of preset. Which I won't go into in huge detail now because we'll be here for the whole podcast just talking about that. But there is a program. We launched on the 31st of January a year of action, and that year of action has very clear things attached to it, such as carbon footprint measurement, such as following playbooks, such as a work stream around managing supply chains. And by joining those groups, you can get into that program of activities. So alongside the sector groups, we've also got an educational program which we're launching next month.
Okay.
Jen, do you want to tell us a bit about that? Because I know you're particularly involved at the moment in that.
Yeah, of course. I think sort of one of the things that we've seen from working with businesses across the sort of last year and things is that they need different ways to engage with Amplifi.
Sure.
And different people are on very different stages of their sustainability journey. And so what we wanted to create was a educational program of different, kind of different ways of learning. Yeah. So we've got some webinars, we're looking at some training options, we're looking at sort of some events and some film screenings. And so there's lots of things in the works, and it may be the case, I mean, I know from say like the food and drink sector, then they don't tend to listen to webinars, but have a sort of meet up in a pub or maybe a film screening, then it's about sort of coming to them where they are.
Sure.
And so that's going to be the sort of like the sort of purpose of the educational program, to really kind of listen and then create sort of meaningful content in order to sort of inspire, educate, persuade, help, whatever it may be.
Awesome. That's amazing.
I think the really important point that we're very keen to keep reminding ourselves and everyone else is that it doesn't matter where you are on the journey. So if you've never spoken about sustainability in your business, this is for you. If you've been doing this for 10 years, this is also for you because we need your help. So wherever you are, there's no judgment. There's no you're doing better than us. This is an open forum to bring whatever you've got, and if that's purely to come and learn and be led by others who are further ahead in the journey, great. You're very, very welcome.
That's really awesome. I think for a lot of businesses, it's really daunting to know where to start, and ultimately when people use the word sustainability, I think it can be banded around. One of the things that I'm really interested to understand from you guys, maybe a question for you, Jen, is have you guys got any like immediate success stories, kind of areas where you guys have had a big impact already?
I think sort of, well, to the first part of what you just said, then it can be very daunting to get started. If you're, it's overwhelming. There's so much information out there. Sustainability has become a bit of a buzzword. And if it's overused, it sort of loses all meaning. And I think one of the things that what we're trying to do with Amplifi is to try and make it sort of simple, or as simple as it can be, but have real kind of tangible, actionable things. Sure. So breaking it all down to, only focus on energy, or only focus on the recycling kind of element, or only focus on kind of employee engagement and getting your kind of team involved. And by breaking it down, then that really, in our view, it really sort of helps to make it just easy and digestible and easy to kind of do. So in terms of sort of successes, then there's been lots of great kind of engagement, which is the first step, which is always kind of, we had an event at the beginning of this year, and 150 odd people came along.
And there was a queue outside the Amelia Scott in the rain, which we like.
Hey, look at that.
Apparently, that's a first for
Yeah,
January.
that's the biggest queue in Tunbridge Wells I've
Yeah.
heard.
Exactly. Which, God, we were so proud of our local town to have done that, to have that level of engagement and to have that buzz. So that was the first sort of success in our eyes, but obviously quite quickly, I think it was pretty much the next day, then Pete and I said, right, okay, now it's action.
Yeah, sure.
And so the sector groups have been really well sort of attended and lots of engagement and things with that, which obviously is fantastic. And people are have got playbooks. So they're working sort of through that and through just anecdotes and things that we know that kind of it's been working. I think some of one of my biggest success stories is the Guinea, which is my favourite pub. Shout out to the Guinea.
All hail the Guinea.
But they have been so passionate about this. And in terms of sort of an organization that maybe wasn't thinking too much around sustainability, then they've signed up to Net Zero Now to actually measure their emissions. Amazing. Every time I go in there, which isn't too much, but every time they're talking about it and they're talking about the changes that they're making. Yeah. And it's that kind of collective kind of doing stuff, then it really makes a massive difference to can then encourage others. Sure. So it's that nudge effect. The more people are talking about it and the more people are talking about the changes that they're making, then the bigger the impact and influence across other businesses.
Pete, could you tell me what the biggest successes have been to date with Amplifi?
Yeah, I think other than the event, which was really, really exciting, I think getting the traction for Net Zero Now. So Net Zero Now is a carbon audit platform. We've partnered with them and we've Amplifi subsidised the Amplifi members' use of that platform. And it is, in many opinions of many sustainability experts, one of the starting points for this journey is to measure your carbon footprint. Yeah. With that measurement, you can then make wiser decisions about what to change. And without the measurement, those decisions aren't measurable. Sure. So we think very clearly that that's a good way to start. So we've subsidised Net Zero Now. And we've got 14 Amplifi members already signed up and starting to use the platform. And we've got about the same number who've committed to start over the next month or so. And then there's another group who later in the autumn who are interested. So, we hope to have sort of 30, possibly even 40 Amplifi businesses measuring their carbon footprint this year, which is, for me, is real action. Yeah. And what that does... Crips did this last year with Net Zero Now, and what it does is once you've got that measurement, you're then on an improvement plan, and you then start to make actual changes. And so this doesn't happen overnight. We can make changes overnight, but the real turn of the tanker happens over quite a long period. Sure. And the measurement of carbon is one of the starting points. So to have a number of businesses who hadn't started this journey at all before this year to start measuring their carbon is really exciting for us, and we feel like a really important part of what we've achieved this year.
Yeah, that's such a huge achievement. Yeah. Well done, guys. I was thinking about businesses in general, and obviously people are slightly put off or apprehensive, I guess, about kind of starting off on a sustainability journey. I mean, why do you think that is? I'll go to you for that, Jen.
Well, we actually, because we wanted to understand more about sort of the local area and local businesses, then we did a survey. We conducted a survey last year that was answered by 200 plus. And the key to this, it's quite simple. It's time, it's money, and it's a lack of knowledge. And so really of course, there are other sort of things, but it really goes down into those three buckets. Yeah. And so it's looking at that. That's why sort of the time aspect, what we're trying to do is sort of crunch all of that sort of data and bring it to people in a sort of simplified way. The money aspect, then that is a challenge. And it really is. Some of the initiatives will cost money. Yeah. Some of the things that businesses need to do to change will cost money. But I think others, it will save them money. And I think there is such commercial benefit, and I've seen this with my own business and within the sort of B Corp community, of the fact that there are commercial benefits to sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is, well, firstly, there is a huge, businesses now, those that aren't on this journey, they will need to be on this journey very quickly.
Yeah.
Because there will be demand from customers, there will be demand from suppliers and kind of partners. And it's going to likely in the future come much more so from a governmental level.
Yeah.
And so there is kind of that aspect of actually do it now.
Yeah.
And then you can make it easier for yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly. But also it is a really good kind of aspect to talk about when it comes to recruitment.
Yeah.
People want to work for good employers that actually put people and planet at the heart of their activities. Absolutely. And that's coming more and more sort of prevalent. And of course, there's a question of greenwashing and green hushing and things like that. Yeah. But ultimately, you can still, thankfully, put on, this is good for the planet, or this is, we're doing planting trees, or we're doing kind of X, Y, Z. And it still has a meaning. And I don't think that businesses should be afraid to use that and to play with that. If your business operations mean that it's actually a lie, obviously do not do it. Yeah. But if you're genuinely making kind of a difference in the world, then by all means sort of talk about it, and that will help your business from a commercial perspective. So I think there are challenges for businesses around this topic, but I think there are solutions if you open your mind to it.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree with that. And I know that in the Amplify get-togethers, you talk quite a lot about help that is out there for businesses, by way of grants or subsidies or things that they can kind of apply for, when they want to start their journey. Obviously not the be all and end all, but I think, those listening, there is so much that you can kind of pick up and kind of draw from those initial meetings. I think it's really valuable, certainly to us here. I just wanted to ask about location. Obviously we're here in not so sunny Tunbridge Wells today, alas. Have you guys got plans to expand Amplify out of the town and the borough?
So we talk about it quite a lot. Our focus at the moment is on this part of the country and Tunbridge Wells and the region around Tunbridge Wells, so the surrounding area. We've got members of Amplify who are from Rye. We've got members from further afield, and everybody's welcome. It's an open tent.
Amazing. But
we are focusing our push and our kind of our messaging and our comms around the local area, because we feel like that's the best way to get traction and to get some real momentum building. We have talked about sort of replicating it in other towns, but actually we're resource constrained and our focus is this area right now. And if some of the successes we talked about can really develop, and we can get what we consider to be real traction, and if this really makes a difference, then we're interested to see how we can make a real difference elsewhere as well. Hopefully by then that difference will have already happened in other ways, and other collectives and other groups would have been formed. But we're open-minded, but we're not going to lose focus on this area by doing something now that we're focused on Tunbridge Wells in the local area, and who knows what happens next year.
Amazing.
And I think the locality is so important for something like this, because so often it can be sort of, a case study of further afield, and, something that's worked in Scotland or whatever might work in Scotland, but there's that sort of thought process of, but will it work for my business in Tunbridge Wells? And I think there's real, opportunity for us to understand where we live and what the challenges are and the opportunities.
Sure. And
so actually that locality thing is really important. The other side of that is that we've got lots of sustainability experts and sort of different members of sort of the council and different kind of groups and organizations. And that only works because of our great network locally.
Yeah, sure.
And that is the power. A lot of this is about those connections.
Yeah.
Because, there's things like recycling that's very much within a sort of business. But when we're talking about sort of larger aspects of sort of energy systems or things like that, then actually it does require a cross collaboration of business, council and other sort of partners. And that really matters that we're doing it on a local level. And also I really want to encourage people to be shopping with each other locally as well. There's so much out there about the power of think global, but act local. Go and shop in your local shops. Hire people from the local area. Because that will have a huge impact as well on carbon emissions in terms of travel costs and various things like that. Yeah. So there is we are thinking big, but at the same time, it's really important for us to kind of ground ourselves in local activity.
Yeah, I really love that. That's such a nice way of framing it, thinking globally, but, living locally. I think that's a soundbite that certainly people can kind of take away and mull over. What about those that are listening and don't feel quite ready to maybe come to a meeting or they're at the point where they want to understand a bit more themselves? What can businesses do, individuals do as sort of baby steps to kind of start off on their sustainability journey?
I think the website's got a fair amount of information, and as Jen mentioned, the educational program is a good way to start listening. This isn't about suddenly opening yourself up to huge amounts of time. It's about just starting to listen and have a look at the educational program that we're going to be launching. Come and listen to some of the conversations that are happening. Talk to other people about what they're doing. Talk to your suppliers and your customers about what they're doing. So I think it's very much opening conversations. Nothing's going to suddenly change tomorrow. And I think the best way to start is just to start, and to stop thinking about it very much, because there are simple things that you can do very quickly that take very little expense, or probably no expense, and very little time in your businesses. And those things don't mean that you have to go all the way. They just mean that you can dip your toe into this, and the sector groups. They happen every quarter. Mm-hmm. You don't have to speak, you just have to come and have a listen, and that's where the different businesses are talking about exactly this. What can I do to get started? Yeah. So we've got a playbook for each sector, which was created by Net Zero Now, and that's which we can provide to anybody free of charge by email immediately. And what that does is set out some basic things to get you started. And you can get into one of those things or all of them. It really doesn't matter. It looks at things like electricity procurement. So where are you getting your electricity from? Is it a renewable supplier? It looks at things you can do around water. It looks at things you can do around waste, things you can do around employee engagement. So it's some really basic things to get you started. Awesome. And that's good enough. And what will follow as you start to develop your knowledge is that you'll start wanting to do the next thing. And that's where the excitement of Amplifi comes, and the momentum that we hope to build is that start of the journey can open you up to all the other kind of things that you can start to do, such as measuring your carbon footprint. Cool. Such as procuring renewable energy or investing in it for yourselves. Yeah.
And I think it's probably important to say as well is that, none of us are sort of whiter than white. We're all trying our best. Yeah. Some people are vegan, some people don't fly, and all of these things do matter. But it's important not to sort of beat ourselves up either on an individual level or a business level, because otherwise that can hinder progress. Yeah. And I think Pete, you made a brilliant point in the event of just saying kind of we're all failing. Like, let's not argue about who's failing faster. Yeah. And I think it's how can we just do little bits and be conscious of the things that we're doing? Even things like if you're running an event, think about the vegetarian options. If there is, you have a business in town, think about how people travel to your offices or to your sort of location. Yeah. Can there be cycle kind of, could there be a shower room? Yeah. Okay, that for some people that might be a stretch, but I get what you're saying. It's about kind of looking at what you have, how your business operates, and try and figure out the little kind of things that you can change. Which doing a few of them, it will start to really build that momentum. And if you do it as a leader, or if you're doing it as part of the team, that will encourage other people to do it as well. Absolutely,
I think that's one of the biggest things, right? We've talked about it before. People not knowing where to start. Obviously, these little things that you can do, starting off with these baby steps. And I think that, what we've discussed today will encourage people to do that. I mean, that ultimately is what it's all about, right? You want people to just start doing something. It doesn't matter quite whether you're doing it completely right, whether you're whatever right is at the moment. This is something that's happening right now, and actually by taking action in whatever way you can is a really good way to do that. Guys, thanks so much for your time today. It's been really awesome chatting with you. Before we wrap the podcast up, I just had one final question for you, and that is, what are your aspirations for Amplifi as it grows and develops over the coming years? Who wants to answer that one?
I think from my side, it's a case of we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what the future looks like, because we are constantly listening to our members and to the people that we sort of talk to about what would be most beneficial to them. So we are listening and developing new initiatives. We are constantly sort of evolving that, but we are open to ideas. And I think that is, we've got the framework in place for Amplifi.
Yeah.
We've got some fantastic sort of financial support from sponsors, where we can kind of spend on certain initiatives. We've got some great connections. We've got a great network and great support. We've got great experts coming in, and we've got mobilized a lot of people to do. And we've got a lot of activities, but it's also really important that people talk to us about what it is that would be most beneficial for them in their business.
Yeah.
You know, we are very kind of energetic individuals, and we want to do a lot of different things, but also we don't have all the answers either. So it is really important for people to come forward.
Amazing.
From my point of view, from very early on in this week, Jen and I were sort of struck by, why can't Tunbridge Wells be good at sustainability? Why can't we put ourselves on the map as a town that's really progressive? And actually for us, the success, or the Amplifi really working, and the dream is to be known in Tunbridge Wells for having businesses that are really progressive in their sustainability journeys, and then to replicate that in other areas if that can be possible.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of our first podcast. And guys, thank you for letting me be your guest host. And you're now going to take the reins, both of you, in the upcoming podcasts. Where you're going to be speaking.
We've been taught very well.
Oh, stop it! You'll make me blush. Where you're going to be speaking to a number of other business owners from Tunbridge Wells and the wider borough. So I'm really looking forward to tuning into those. And thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for having us.
You so much.
Cheers, Joe.
Cheers.